What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing well. We have a kind of a unique video for the channel today. It's just kind of a section of my pre-stream on Twitch where I kind of ranked every NBA team and put where I thought that they would be record-wise next season. I just thought that this would be kind of fun to predict each team's record by tier and then react to it at the end of the season. Now, it's going to be a while till you guys see the reaction, but today we're going to have my ranking of each team. If you guys do enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and yeah. I hope you guys enjoy. We're going to rank or make like a tier list essentially of where I think NBA teams are going to fall. What we got here is less than 18 wins. So that's any team that I think is going to get less than 18. I am going to quickly show you guys the standings from last year. So less than 18 wins, we had the Pistons, we had the Wizards, and that was it. It was the Pistons and the Wizards. So essentially the East. The West, so many teams had wins, like everyone had 20 plus, which I feel like is kind of shocking because the Charlotte Hornets were like the next lowest with 21. So we have that. After that, we have 18 to 27. So that's going to be kind of like your lower end teams. You're going to have your Raptors, Hornets, Wizards. Yeah, I'm not going to go through every team. Obviously, you guys can see the standings and look them up. We're going to start in the East. The teams are in random order. So we're going to start with the Knicks. Just acquired Karl-Anthony Towns, who is crazy for them to get because they got Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. And essentially, they bring in two starters to the same team minus one player. So I think the Knicks are easily 53 plus. They won 50 games last year. They are essentially way better, and they have just about as much depth. So I think 53 plus easily for them. Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, I'm going to rethink this a little. So with the rework here, Knicks, I'm putting in 57 plus. I think that the Knicks and the Celtics being in the East, they're the two best teams in the East. And I think that they're just going to both dominate these bottom teams that aren't very good in the East. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the Celtics up there too. Not a shocker. I'm a Celtics fan. So.
Oh, no. This can't be.
But we've got these two at the top. Let's move on to the Nets. Actually, let's go back to the Bucks. Do I think the Bucks win 50 games? They won 49 last year, and they dealt with a lot of injuries. It's really hard because I think the Bucks could easily be in this 50-56, but we also have a team like the Sixers who are also going to be really good. I think the Sixers, they won 47 games last year, and it's I think that they can be 3 games better. I really do. So it's I don't know who I'm going to end up putting in that tier, but I'm going to stick the Bucks here for now. I might rework it later. But I think that in the East, I see them being fourth or third or fourth. It's just kind of a toss up between them and the Sixers. So let's move on to the Nets. Less than 18. Any more wins than that? And that is a shame.
Boom. Roasted.
They traded back for their own pick. So that's actually pretty interesting. And it makes this season actually worth it for them. They didn't own their first round pick, so they didn't really have to be bad. But now that they traded back with Houston and got their first round pick, they're set up to just have a year to tank. Toronto Raptors. 18 to 27, they won 25 games last year. I think that they will be better. I'm very tempted to put them in 28. There's going to be a lot worse teams in the East this next year. So I'm going to honestly vote pretty optimistic for them, and I say they win a couple more games. Chicago Bulls, this is one of those teams. They won 39 games last year. I don't see them being in this tier. I could see them being around that 28 game. That's them dropping a decent amount. And, if they end up being okay like they have been over the last few years, it would still put them in this range. So I think the Toronto Raptors and the Bulls are kind of on that same tier where they have some promising pieces. The Bulls should be tanking more, but the Raptors are trying to kind of build on things to not tank. So I'm going to put them both there. Pistons, 18 and 27. I don't see them making a crazy jump. They obviously won 14 games last year, but they're not going to be less than 18 this year. I really don't think so. They picked up Tobias Harris, so they get some shooting. I think that they have a little bit of a bounce back year. I don't think they'd lose 28 straight like they did last year. I just don't think that that's a thing. So I'm going to put them in this 18 to 27. All right, Cleveland Cavaliers. The really only team of the top, besides the Celtics, I guess, but the Knicks bring in, obviously, Mikal, Karl-Anthony Towns. The Bucks make a couple decent moves and bring in Gary Trent, a little bit more depth. The Cavaliers, I think that they will be better. just because they're going to have a little more continuity. They had this injury stretch last year where Darius Garland just did not play, and they rattled off, like, I think it was 21 straight. And I think just with a little bit more injury luck, they could be in this 43 to 49 range. They won 48 games last year, so they were kind of on the high end of this, but I don't see them winning a ton more than that with these top end teams kind of taking more of the wins. I really think that this is a good spot for them. I think that the Bucks and the Cavs are kind of on the same level. I think that if anyone moves up, it's going to be the Bucks. 76ers, 50-56 with Paul George and Joel Embiid, with both of them being there with Maxey as like their third. I think that they can be really good. The Clippers won 51 games last year, and that's, I kind of see the 76ers being in the similar boat in an easier conference. Like Joel Embiid is similar to Kawhi Leonard in the fact that they oftentimes get hurt and they don't play games. So there's this third star in Maxey who's kind of like Harden, as we saw when they played together. Like as soon as James Harden left the Sixers, Maxey took off. And so you have Joel, Paul George, and Maxey, and I think that this team easily wins 50 games. Like, even barring injury, like, let's say Joel Embiid does miss half the year, like, I still think Maxey and Paul carry this team to 50 wins. Because the Clippers won 51 in the West last year. And I know it's a little bit of a different situation, but I think the Sixers have decent depth. So, I'm going to put them in that 50 range. That one could come back to bite me if injuries play a part. And they won 47 games last year with Joel not even playing that much. So I think 50-56 is a really solid place for these guys here. Charlotte Hornets, 21 games last year. LaMelo Ball was injured quite a bit. I have a hard time putting them up to 30 to 28 wins, but I think that they could get here. I really like what the Hornets have done. If LaMelo has a healthy year, I think the Bulls are going to be worse. I think there's a couple other teams in the East that are going to be worse to where they can kind of gain some of those wins. I really want to put the Hornets here at 28. I think they get a little bit better, but I don't know if they get that much better. I think I'm going to put the Hornets there. We're going to go 27, and we're going to move this to 26. So we're going to do that. This might be subject to change. Might be. Let's go Washington Wizards. 18-26. I don't, they won 15 last year. I don't see them being that much better. I think they could be 3 games better, though. I think the Pistons, although they were at the bottom of the conference last year, I think they skyrocket at least 10 wins. Like, I think they get to 24-ish, like 20-24 range. So I don't know if the Wizards do, though. All right, Orlando Magic.
Play the song.
Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic.
One of the best theme songs in the NBA, puts them automatically in S tier. No, I'm just kidding. The Magic are interesting, though. The Magic were the 5th seed last year. They had 47 wins. There was this big cluster of teams that all had 47 wins. You have the Magic, you have the Pacers, you have the Sixers, and then right above that you have the Cavs and the Bucks at 48 and 49. So like this 3 through 7 range is like all within these 2 wins. So I think that's kind of similar to what it's going to be this year. I don't see the Magic winning less than like what they kind of won last year. So I think that puts them in this tier again. I'm not trying to base everything off of last year, but they got better. They got KCP. I think if anything, honestly, like they might be in this 42, but I think 43 is a good place to put them here. This is kind of like your playoff teams out East. Like 43 kind of gets you into the play-in at least, unless you're the Hawks who won 36 games last year. But I really think that they're in this 43 to 49 range. So I'm going to keep them here. Miami Heat. The Heat I have a hard time placing. I really do. Jimmy Butler is kind of hypothetically maybe on the move. They won 46 games last year. I feel like they're going to be better this year. Like honestly, and I feel like this is kind of the range for them, that 43 to 49. I just hate putting so many teams like high up like this because I have a feeling one of these teams is going to either fall out of here or just like really underperform due to an injury or something. I'm going to put them in this 43 to 49. I really like Jimmy. I think Bam is going to have a really good year after the Olympics. Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier hopefully can figure out like maybe some of the defensive stuff that they struggled with last year. But I really think that the Heat are going to be pretty decent this year. Next up, Hawks. Gosh, the Hawks should be bad this year. But they won 36 games last year, and I think that's about where they are. You get Rich Jose, the number 1 pick, who is seen as a weaker number 1 pick, but I think he looked okay in Summer League. I didn't watch a ton of Summer League stuff, so I'm not going to say for sure, but I think that he didn't look like, like a lot of people didn't know what he played like because he played overseas. So I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be a pretty good prospect. For a number 1 overall pick, I feel like the expectations aren't really like super high for him because he went to the Hawks and because of the situation with like him and Alex Sarr and these other like guys not really being like number 1 picks. So I'm gonna put him in that 27 to 36. I think if anything, they lose a few more games than they won the year before. Pacers. They won 47 last year, and I have a lot of teams in this range. I really think the Cavs take a jump. I do. I think just one more year being together. I think Darius Garland's gonna be a lot more healthy. They rattled off those 21 last year, but it's either them or the Bucks. Like. I'm kind of in between on them. I think Giannis has a really good comeback year. I think he's top 3 in MVP voting again. I'm really struggling with where to put them just because they did win 49 games last year, but the Cavs won 48. It's just a few game difference, but I think we could see some more 50-win teams this next year. So I think I'm going to go with this for now and kind of leave this as the East. I don't have anyone in this 37 to 42. Which only one team was in that range last year, and it was the Chicago Bulls. That's kind of crazy, actually, if you think about it. Whereas in the West, there's just the Houston Rockets. They were the only team. Man, that's kind of crazy, actually. Let's go ahead and move on to the West. Utah Jazz. Okay. The Jazz always start off really strong. They don't ever really finish the year strong. They kind of waver off a little bit. Jazz are kind of hard to place here. I think 27-36. I think that's fair. I think they're going to be good, but not good enough to do anything in the West in the playoffs. Houston Rockets, I think they're in this 37 to 42 range. I think they're the definition of a 500 team. I think that they are just going to miss the play-in again. One of the teams has to fall out because I think, and it's insane to think about, but the Memphis Grizzlies are a top 6 team in the West when they're healthy. I think they might be a play-in team this year just because they don't have very much continuity, but they're really good. But I think for the Jazz, because that's who we're actually talking about here, I think that they're this 27 to 36. The Rockets, I think they're in this 37 to 42. So I think we leave those there. New Orleans, 49 wins last year. I think they might get 50. They had a lot of interesting stuff kind of going on. Zion might be a full-time 5. They also have DeJounte Murray coming in, and they haven't traded Brandon Ingram yet, but I think when they do, they're going to get a good package for him. And if they get a center, I think that makes a really big difference for them. So I think the Pelicans are one team that can hit that 50 wins. I really do. I'm pretty high on the Pelicans, but I just could see injuries or something bringing them down to this tier, and that's the only thing I'm worried about. I feel like there's always something with them, and it's like if they're super healthy, they can be this team. They can be the 1 seed, kind of like the Thunder, but I just think the injuries bring them from, your 43 wins to your 56 wins. Either one of these tiers, I think, suits them. The Lakers. Oh, boy. One more year of LeBron. Going into it and not knowing how good he's going to be and having no reason really to doubt him being really good. I think they're in this 43 to 49. They won 47 last year. I mean, if they're 2 games better, that puts them as the 6th seed instead of the 8th seed. So I really think that, especially with the Grizzlies coming back and winning a lot more games, I think the West is going to be a lot more competitive. So I'm probably not going to have as many teams super high. The Thunder are one of the teams. I'm just gonna put them up in this 57 plus tier. Picked up Hartenstein, picked up Caruso. They're only gonna get better because their young guys are gonna progress. They're easily in this 57 plus category if Shea stays healthy all year. The Nuggets are another team. I feel pretty strongly about that. They did lose KCP though, so it makes me want to put them in this tier. I think KCP's a lot bigger deal to lose than a lot of people are kind of thinking. That's kind of why I have the Magic staying in this tier. I don't think they're falling off after their run last year because they picked up KCP. So I think the Nuggets drop. I mean, if they win 56 games, they lost 1 more game than last year. So I think that 50 to 56 is fair. They're definitely still making the playoffs, and they're still a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. But I just don't see them being this 57 plus. Because Jokic had an incredible MVP season last year, and Jamal Murray really didn't look good in the Olympics this year, which doesn't exactly translate to how he's going to look in the regular season, but I really think they're going to drop to this 50 to 56 tier. Next up, Portland Trailblazers. I think they should be in this less than and it's less than 18, but I really think they're going to be up here. I don't think they have a whole lot to write home about, but I think that them winning 21 games last year is impressive. I honestly would not have put them at that much if I wasn't looking at it, so I think we're going to put them in this tier. Let's go Grizzlies. We kind of talked about them earlier. Let me look at where they were 2 years ago, because last year's kind of a fluke. 2 years ago, they won 51 games. They were the 2 seed, and they took on the Lakers after the play-in. That's right. Okay. Ja Morant is such a good basketball player. Healthy, it just is the engine of this team. You have Desmond Bane, you have Jaren Jackson, who won DPOY 2 years ago. You have Zach Edey, who's going to hold up the front court as a rookie, and I think he'll be actually pretty good. I think a lot of people have some skepticism towards Zach Edey, but I think he's going to be a lot better than people think. So I don't think they win 50 games just because the West is so crowded now. I feel like they have to be in this 43 to 49. I feel like a year of not playing together, and they could have some of that injury history, which I'm not really trying to predict, but I kind of am just because of situations with them. I think they go from 27 to this 43 to 49 range, and I think that that puts them either kind of in the play-in or like the bottom half of the top 6. So I think we go with that. Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are an interesting one. The Timberwolves won 56 games last year. So as I said at the beginning of this video, I am recording this the day that Cat is traded. They pick up DiVincenzo. They pick up Julius Randle. Julius Randle was having a good year last year, but then you have this stretch where you play games without him, and that's why the Knicks are so scary. You take the team last year, the second half of the season, that had Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo going absolutely crazy, and in the playoffs, you replace Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart with Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges. That is so absurdly impressive to me. And I think after that trade, like if Kristaps Porzingis misses a decent amount of this year, I think the Knicks can be better than the Celtics in the regular season next year. I really do. I think they have a good chance to beat them in their matchups. And if we have this post-championship like clarity for the Celtics and they're not really playing as hard as they need to, I think that they won't have that personally, because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I feel like, are both going to be on a mission, because let's be honest, this championship run that they had wasn't like super glorified. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Celtics fan. Like I could give a damn less if Bleacher Report and everyone else posted more about it and made it look awesome. I just can't really see them not being all locked in because of the things that happened with the Olympics for both of them. And I think that they just both are going to come into this season with a chip on their shoulder. So take that as biased Celtics fandom, if you will. But I think the Celtics and the Knicks are both going to be fighting for that top seed in the Eastern Conference. Anyways, moving on from that, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who we were supposed to be talking about, I like Julius Randle on this team. Another rebounder. I think that you can put him at the 5 as well, like if Rudy Gobert's not playing well, but I think that him and Rudy would kind of mesh well together. Not as well as Cat. That's one thing I am worried about, but you get Dante DiVincenzo in this deal as well, and a first-round pick. So I think I don't mind it, because you also have Naz Reid, and I feel like Naz Reid and Julius Randle can both play well together as well. So I think you have options if you're the Timberwolves, which you also had last year. So I think this 50 to 56 is fair. They won 56 games last year, but with the Grizzlies coming back, with the Rockets and these younger teams kind of getting a little bit better, I think that 50 to 56 is a good place for them. All right, Dallas Mavericks. This is one that I'm actually pretty excited about. They pick up Klay Thompson. They do lose, what's his name? Derek Jones Jr. They do lose him, but they bring in Najee Marshall. They bring in Klay Thompson. They won 50 games last year, so I think they get better. I think that Luka is going to have a legitimate MVP race this year, so long as he starts the season off really strong. I just think that bringing in a 4-time champion like Klay Thompson with Kyrie, who's also an NBA champion, I think that they are going to mesh extremely well. And I think Klay Thompson's going to fit into this system really well too. So I'm putting them in this 50 to 56. I don't see them losing less games than they won last year. So we're going to put them there. San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are so interesting. You get Chris Paul. You also trade for Harrison Barnes, who I don't mind that pickup for a young team. He didn't really mesh well with the Kings, who we're going to get to. I don't know how much better I see the Spurs. I can see them being a lot better is the thing. I think that they could honestly be in this 27 to 36 tier. The only problem is there's like 20 wins here that the Grizzlies are eating up, I feel like. So maybe it's just the fact that like the Jazz are going to get worse and we have a couple teams at the top falling down a little bit. But I really think that if this is my one team I'm wrong on, I'm okay with that. I think the Spurs can win 27 games this year. That's 5 more than they won last year. And when we didn't play the last game, they could have won that one too. So let's go Suns. The Suns, the 6th seed, won 49 games last year. They bring in Tyus Jones, which I don't hate, but I just don't see them being so much better than last year because Bradley Beal was injured quite a bit. I just don't see like them moving up in order for these teams to move down. Besides the bottom teams just taking more losses. So I think I put them in this 43 to 49. I could really see them being up here though, is the thing. One thing though too is I think the Clippers are in this 43 to 49. The Clippers definitely got worse losing Paul George. They do pick up Derrick Jones Jr., which I think allows them to stay in this 43 to 49. They also have James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, but Kawhi Leonard has something that he's dealing with injury-wise right now, which I think could come back to bite them during this regular season. So I think we put the Clippers there. And then I think that might allow the Suns to be in that 50 range. They won 49, so it's not crazy to say that they're going to be better. I think it's really funny that I have this 37 to 42, and all I have is the Rockets and the Warriors in this tier. The Warriors are so hard for me to place. They won 46 games last year. The Warriors are really hard for me right now. They lose Klay Thompson, but they bring in Kyle Anderson. They bring in Buddy Hield, and I want to say that they'll be better. I want to say they're going to be in this 43 range because that's where they were last year. But that's so many teams in this range that I feel like so many of the losses are going to have to pile up on these bottom teams, which is kind of how it works. But I don't know. We also have the Kings who got better, and they bring in DeMar DeRozan, who's not like a perfect fit for them, but I think he works for them. I really like him on the Sacramento Kings, and I don't see them losing less games than they won last year. I think that's a lot of teams for me right now. But you have the Nuggets, who I think are going to win less games. You also have the Clippers, who I think are going to win less games. You have the Lakers, who I feel like are going to be about the same as last year. You have the Jazz, who I honestly think are going to lose more games than they won last year. I think this is what I go with, though, you guys. I think that this is the tier list that we do, and I hope you guys enjoyed me talking through this. If you actually stayed for the whole video, I really appreciate it. I think I like the way this looks. I think that I might need to have a few more in this 37 to 42 range, but it's kind of like in that, no man's land of like 500 NBA teams. So I think that this is a good start. Unless anything drastic trade-wise happens or an injury before the season, this is what I'm going to lock in as my tier list for the NBA season. So if you guys did enjoy this, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.